Welcome back. 44 past the hour. Joining us now from Washington, Democratic Senator from Missouri, Senator Claire McCaskill, and Republican Senator from Pennsylvania, Senator Pat Toomey. They are co-sponsoring a new bipartisan bill to ban earmarks. It's good to have you both.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Claire, I guess this is a sign that some of you can agree on something.
Yeah, we actually, Miko, there are a number of Republicans and Democrats that are working at stuff every day. And I know it's kind of fashionable right now to say, forget about Washington, they're all idiots, they all can't do anything. But there really are a bunch of us that are trying every single day to try to do things. This is a great example of something that we feel strongly about, that we think we can get some good bipartisan support for.
Want to hear about the bill, but Pat Toomey, on that note, though, can you understand how people may feel a little bit put off by Washington, by Congress and the leadership in Washington, because it seems like when something comes to the forefront, nothing gets done. And of course, I point to the super committee and other failures there. Is there a way that you guys can get around that? And can you understand that there is a little bit of a distrust at this point?
Mika, can I understand it? I feel it myself. I'm extremely frustrated. This is my first year in the Senate, almost finished now, and I'm enormously frustrated. We didn't do a budget, haven't done the ordinary appropriation bills. There are many things that we ought to be doing on the Senate floor that we're not, but fortunately here's something where Senator McCaskill and I share a common view, and we're going to work together, and I'm cautiously optimistic about what we can accomplish here.
You know, one of the things, though, that actually has caused a division between these two, and you can see it just in the facial expressions, and I hate it, but actually Pat Toomey looks pretty heavy next to Claire McCaskill.
Well, I know.
It's like he's bloated. It's like he's been eating too many Philly cheesesteaks.
I love you, Joe. I love you.
Claire, I know you do, Claire, and I love you too.
Music to my ears.
He's just looking a little fat and sweaty.
Right, I'll hit the gym, okay?
you need to do it. So Claire, it's not lost on me that you two sitting next to each other are from two swing states, Missouri and Pennsylvania, where the overwhelming majority of people in those states expect their leaders to use common sense and get along. It ain't New York and Alabama. It's not red and blue. You all are from purple states. How do you go back home to people in Missouri and say, you know, we just can't figure out a way to cut a couple of dollars to balance our budget?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to do is the amplification in our system occurs at the two ends. And states like Missouri and Pennsylvania produce moderates to the United States Senate because they're moderate states. They're not bright blue and they're not bright red. And I hope that especially independent voters take a hard look at how we find solutions. For years, this country has celebrated around the table of compromise. It has been compromise that has been what has made our system of government work. And if we hollow out the middle, if we get everybody on one end or the other in Washington, we're not going to get those compromises, and all we're going to have is dysfunction and gridlock. So
but you know,
I hope
Claire,
compromise is part of it.
It's not, though, really even about ideology, because Pat Toomey is a very conservative guy. You're progressive in some areas. Missouri sends really conservative people to the Senate. Pennsylvania sent Rick Santorum as well. And yet it's just a willingness to look past ideology and do what's best for the country. Right, Pat?
And find the things we agree on. I mean, Pat Toomey and I agree that earmarks, while it doesn't look like it's a lot of money, it's the culture. It's what has grown up over time in Washington, that your success has everything to do with what kind of pet projects you can get funded, as opposed to how do we shrink the size of the federal government.
And the other thing I would say, Joe, is most voters are really pretty smart, and they understand that it's not realistic to think that they're going to agree with their senator or their congressman 100% of the time. They know I'm a conservative guy. Some people really like that, some not so much. But I think they respect somebody who's honest and straightforward, does what they say they're going to do. And in this environment, I think there's an overwhelming majority of Pennsylvanians that think we need a conservative approach to our budget.
Senator Toomey, Donnie Deutsch,
Hey, Donnie.
before you give us the details of the bill, which seems fantastic, Charlie Crist didn't get reelected because he was seen in a picture hugging Barack Obama. I love when I see the two of you together. As an American, it just makes me feel good. When you go back to your friends on one side of the aisle, are you in any way chagrined because you're here with Senator McCaskill? Is that seen as to the base as, oh my goodness, what are you doing sitting next to her? What seems right to me, I would infer within your party.
Well, first of all, you're not going to see them hug each other, so it's not the Chris.
But it's the same. But I feel the hugs.
Yeah.
I feel the hugs
we're
going on.
capable of a hug. Oh, we're capable.
You know, I think chances are pretty good. I'll still be invited to lunch today with my Republican colleagues. No, that's really, I think it's wildly overstated, the sense that somehow we're supposed to not work together. It's really silly. As you know, nothing gets done in the Senate unless there's bipartisan support for it. So every single day, the Democrats and Republicans are trying to find ways to work together, and surprisingly often they find some modest progress.
So on the big issue, though, on the debt, we've gotten to a point, sadly, that even if we could magically find $4 trillion in spending cuts and revenue enhancements, tax increases, however you want to put it, you know, over 10 years from now, we would still be in trouble. So how do we move forward, guys? Senator McCaskill, I'll start with you. How do we get this country moving forward on debt reduction so we don't end up like Greece?
Well, we're headed the right direction. I mean, and as our economy it's going to take time for it to get the kind of recovery we all want, because this is a credit bubble retraction, and that just takes a while. There's things we can do to get out of the way and help the private sector, and over time, the best thing we can do for our deficit and our debt is to have more productivity in this country. And the $4 trillion, Joe, if we were to get that done, that would have a huge impact on the trajectory of the debt. We wouldn't have completely wipe it out in 10 years, but we'd be at a place that our country is back on very firm fiscal footing.
I've got a slightly different take. I do think that growth is an absolutely vital component of this, but I think we've got to acknowledge that the fundamental design of the big entitlement programs is unsustainable. The architecture doesn't work, and it is not going to work. That is what every bipartisan commission has acknowledged. That is what anybody who's looked honestly at Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security has concluded. So we need to have the courage to change that architecture in a way that makes sense, a way that still serves the people who need those programs. But until we address the big entitlements, we're not going to solve our long-term deficit and debt problem.
Okay, Toomey, hit the gym.
All right, I'll do it.
You've got an example next to you. Come on.
I know.
Oh, Claire is
Sharpen up.
even though she lashed out at me.
Get ideologically,
for my
you like
healthy
both
lifestyle.
those people. I'm going to go back to
Of course I like both
the
those.
debates. Those are two likable people.
You know what's fascinating, though? You like both of those people, but I guarantee you neither one of them like you.
Well, that's a given.
Senator Claire McCaskill and Senator Pat Toomey.
Thank you so much.
Have a bill
thanks,
to ban
guys.
earmarks that they announced
I love Donna.
yesterday.
You can
Thank
say
you.
whatever you want to say, Donna. It's like one of those punching clowns that goes
Sweet
down
thing.
and boop, comes right back up.
Come on.
We'll
We'll be right back.
Oh, Jan, you have got a strong